Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Marie Brown, and I am the head of marketing for Ternary. I'm joined today by my colleague, Bob Kilbride. Bob, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Bob Kilbride. I'm responsible for channel and alliances for Ternary, and thanks everybody for joining and viewing.
Great. Yeah, Bob and I have had the pleasure of working together and working in the cost management and FinOps market for over 8 years on my end. How many years on your end, Bob?
45 years. In cloud years, that's actually true. It's been about 10 years. So yes, we're a couple of FinOps geeks.
Yeah, and as you could tell, Bob is a jokester, so this is going to be an entertaining webinar. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Your lines are muted, but we do encourage you to utilize the Q&A window for any questions throughout the presentation. We'll answer the questions at the end of the session. And with that, we'd like to get started. So today's topic is the future of MSP cloud services, creating value with FinOps. I'd like to start with breaking down the nuances between cost visibility, cost management, and FinOps. Oftentimes, these practices are used interchangeably, and you may also hear a flavor of cost management optimization, cloud cost optimization. But there are some nuances between each of these practices. Starting with cost visibility, this is really an essential building block for all of these practices. And it's really focusing on understanding who's spending money in the cloud and on what specifically. And for you as a partner, this is a fundamental for all of your customers. They need that cost visibility. Then branching into cost management, a lot of times your customers are probably getting a mandate from their leadership team or their boss saying, hey, you know what? It's time to tighten the belt. We might have to do, say a 10% reduction in costs, something to that effect. And then that's when, cost management practices really get kind of kicked into high gear. A lot of the times it's focused on identifying those savings opportunities and the reduction in cloud spend. Both of these practices here, cost visibility and cost management, are often kind of seen as more siloed and reactive approaches. And that brings us to FinOps, which is our topic today. And this really is a different approach because it's more collaborative and proactive and intentional. And really, the focus here is on helping your customers drive a cost-conscious culture. And it does entail a comprehensive strategy across multiple personas and departments. In one of our earlier webinar sessions, we had discussed the different personas that are in the FinOps ecosystem and the opportunities that you have as a partner to engage with all those different personas. And today we're going to dive a bit deeper into some of the trends across all of these practitioners. With that, I'll hand things over to Bob.
Yeah, so we're talking about FinOps services opportunities for MSPs and cloud services providers. And today we're going to be talking about some specific trends that are going to present opportunities. But before we get into that, we want to talk about where your FinOps service fits. And the great thing about FinOps being strategic and collaborative versus just visibility or just optimization is the fact that it layers nicely into every service that you're already delivering or planning on delivering to your clients. So FinOps fits squarely in managed services. So of course, if you're doing a managed service for your cloud customers, you're going to be providing FinOps cloud cost optimization services. And that's typically where a FinOps service will live. But it can also be layered onto any other service that you're providing to your customers. So application modernization, for example, if you're modernizing your applications, clearly you're going to be using some new services and new infrastructure, and you need to understand the costs and the visibility into that new infrastructure and make sure that you're getting the return on your investments. Artificial intelligence, just about every services partner is leading with AI today. AI is going to consume a lot of compute. It's going to consume a lot of storage. But to what return? What's the return on that? And a lot of customers don't understand. They know they need to do it. They know they need to modernize using AI, but at what cost? So it's very important to have a FinOps conversation with every customer that you're engaging with on AI projects. Security and compliance, you don't always often think about FinOps when you're talking about cloud security. However, I was speaking with an MSSP just the other day, and FinOps is part of every discussion with every customer they have because it's just as important as your main security applications. Having the right FinOps strategy in place could be the first indication, could allow you to have the first indication that there's a bad actor in your environment. If there's a particular anomaly that occurs, that anomaly might be occurring because someone is doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, or someone's in the environment that is not supposed to be there. So FinOps is actually very important when it comes to security and compliance. Big data, analytics. So if you're using databases, those come at a cost, and you need to understand that you're in the right database technology among your cloud provider, and you need to make sure that it is optimized. And then finally, cloud migration, whether that be from data center into public cloud or from one public cloud to another public cloud. You need to understand what the costs look like. You need visibility into that new environment. So it's like the fries with the cheeseburger. So if you're having any of these conversations with your customers, if you're delivering these projects, it's always relevant to talk about their FinOps strategy.
Great. And I like that analogy, Bob. I was going to say, don't forget the milkshake, but fries and cheeseburger, most definitely.
Especially around St. Patrick's Day with your Shamrock Shake.
Exactly. Now, we want to dive into the recent State of FinOps 2025 survey data before we jump into the trends here. And this is really going to set the stage for the rest of the conversation we're having today. For those of you who may not be familiar with the State of FinOps, this is an annual survey published by the FinOps Foundation. This is the fifth year that the survey has run, and approximately 860 respondents this year, and this is worldwide. Now, we pulled out a few snippets of data from the survey that we want to share with you today. This first one here are the current top priorities for practitioners. So, what your end customers are focusing on right now. You'll notice workload optimization and waste reduction bubbles up to the top. This is the second year in a row that that has been the leading top priority. And as I mentioned on previous slides, savings and the concern for savings isn't going away. All of your customers want to save money. But with FinOps, we want you to help your customers make money and drive operational efficiency and help them grow their business and grow your business as a result. So you'll see optimization ranks in number one, followed by some core visibility components, allocation of spending, forecasting. And then as we go down the list, we get a bit into some of the cultural components. And again, this is where FinOps differentiates from the traditional cost management segment. But what we want to focus on today are a few trends here. So just to highlight a few, managing costs beyond public cloud, getting to unit economics, and managing AI ML spend. So you notice they're approximately halfway down on the current top priorities list, closer towards the bottom in some cases. But when we look at this data for the next 12 months, you'll notice a shift in this result. So you'll see some things like FinOps governance and policy bubble up to the top. Again, that is having a cost-conscious culture. Workload optimization, not going anywhere, to be expected. But if I pop out the results here, you'll notice managing costs beyond public cloud, getting to unit economics, and managing AI ML spend jumped several places in the pecking order here. And we'll dive into each of these in more detail in just a few moments. But with each of these trends, we'll cover the MSP opportunities and the ways that your customers are approaching these trends and thinking about it, and how you can help them.
Yeah, it's important to point out that the top two items on that chart are very important conversation starters. If a client wants to adopt FinOps, that's great. You could be their cloud cost center of excellence. You could be their FinOps team, or you can help consult them on how to build FinOps. But there's more to it than that. It's like the things that we're going to be talking about today are the strategic things about what's most important to their business. Like, what does their environment truly look like, and what are they trying to accomplish? The other item there, optimization. Of course, everybody wants to save money in the cloud. Everybody wants to be optimized, and it's an excellent first conversation. Everybody wants to, hey, I can save you money on your cloud spend. Great, let's talk. But where the relationships get strategic and where the real opportunity is when you're aligning your services to the objectives and the goals of your clients. And these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about with these emerging services.
Exactly, Bob. Yeah, savings is a great door opener, get you into the conversation, but you want to be a long-term, strategic advisor for your end customers. And we're looking long-term, these are the trends that you need to start considering and having some serious conversations about.
Savings is
So,
important, but it's a little boring, isn't it, Marie?
I mean, everyone talks about it, but yeah, I mean, everyone says 20%, 30%, but can you do beyond savings? That's really the question everyone should be asking.
Right on.
So starting with SaaS, and in the past year, the FinOps Foundation introduced the expansion of what they call FinOps scope. So historically, the sole scope for FinOps was public cloud spend. And after, a lot of community feedback and feedback from vendors like us who've had many conversations with customers, we're seeing that a lot of practitioners want to expand beyond public cloud and apply some of these best practices and principles to other areas of spend. SaaS is just one example of that expanded scope. Others, data center, private cloud, licensing. But we'll see if based on the state of FinOps data, SaaS is definitely bubbling up to the top as the most watched FinOps scope, the one folks are most interested about. So currently, about 40% of practitioners are either, thinking about SaaS management or implementing it. In the next 12 months, that's expected to go up another 25%. So by the end of the year, 65% of your customers are going to be exploring ways to manage these SaaS costs. And SaaS, similar to cloud, there's variable spending and there are nuances depending on what kind of SaaS tools your customers are using. Perhaps they're using observability solutions. Perhaps they're using business intelligence tools. There's a whole world out there of SaaS tooling, and in some cases they may be procuring these SaaS tools directly through you. Perhaps they're procuring them through a marketplace purchase. And it's an opportunity for you as a partner to understand their pain points as it pertains to SaaS management. And you'll notice here the key capabilities for SaaS aren't entirely different from what your customers need on the cloud side as well. So, key capabilities, budgeting, what is their adherence to budget? How are they forecasting? How are they accurately allocating costs for SaaS across different business groups? What is their reporting like? Do they have any sort of unified reporting across all of their SaaS solutions? Chances are they're logging into a handful of individual tools and stitching something together manually in spreadsheets. These are just a few of the capabilities that customers are really interested in exploring when it pertains to SaaS costs. And as their trusted partner, you have the opportunity to help educate them as well on the nuances between, SaaS pricing models. Some are, licensing based and some are consumption based. And there are also additional MSP opportunities. Bob, would you like to touch on those?
Yeah, and SaaS is one, this has been a trend that's been growing for years. It's been on our radar, but really over the past year, it's become more and more prevalent. I would say probably half, over 50% of the conversations I have, both with end clients and MSPs, are looking to get some visibility and reporting into SaaS and other cloud applications separate from, or I should say, including. In addition to the traditional cloud infrastructure. So the opportunity for MSPs is to include SaaS as part of the service that you're offering. So if you're offering a centralized platform or tool for FinOps cloud cost management, include SaaS as part of that. And one of the things that this does is it expands the conversation with your clients. If you're talking to your client about the other SaaS applications, the other cloud applications that they're running along with Azure, AWS, Google, you're expanding the conversation into what they're doing. If they're using Databricks, for example, what are they using Databricks for? Why is it important to them, and how else can you help them? And potentially, could you offer services around the things that they're doing with that? Maybe there's an opportunity for a big data and analytics services job. So when you're having a conversation about FinOps services, cloud cost management services, include the conversation around SaaS and other cloud services. What else makes up your cloud footprint beyond the big three CSPs? And include that in part of the service that you're providing. Help them provide visibility, get visibility, and provide the optimization for those components as well. And then you can also expand that into helping your clients negotiate their SaaS and cloud services subscriptions to make sure that they're getting the best deal that they could from the SaaS provider. And an example of a use case, we had a customer at Ternary who was using I believe I think they're an AWS user mainly, but multi-cloud, but also MongoDB and Snowflake. And that MongoDB and Snowflake usage accounted for 15% of their total cloud spend. So when you look at what they were spending on CSPs, Snowflake and Mongo was 15% of the total spend. So it's a significant amount of the spend. And they're using these solutions to drive the applications that are consuming that cloud infrastructure. So it's just important to get visibility into these applications as it is to get visibility into the CSP data. What they need to do is provide not only the visibility, but make sure that the costs are allocated to the proper business group. They want to ensure that each business group is seeing exactly what they're consuming from these particular solutions. And what this highlights is this challenge for cloud consumers to go beyond tracking spend with AWS, Azure, and GCP, which is the way that it used to be. Just give me the visibility and the optimization and help me operate for AWS, Azure, and GCP. But these SaaS applications and these cloud service applications that are running on top of the CSPs are just important now to track. In some cases, I had a client tell me that after AWS, they were using Databricks, and Databricks was easily the second largest cost for them in any given month. So it was important for them to get visibility into that usage, but also get recommendations for optimization for that as well. So in every environment now, it's not just their CSP cost and usage. They're looking to bring in various SaaS applications as well. And like we said, it creates a tremendous opportunity for MSPs to expand the scope of your services and your relationship with that client.
Exactly. And I would say, if you're not already having this conversation with your customer, they're not bringing this to you, bring this to them. There are definitely a handful, at least, of SaaS solutions that your customer is using that you may or may not be aware of. And, again, talking about personas, depending on if your customer's organization has, a focused FinOps team or, operations team, engineering team, finance involved, all these different personas that you can interact with to help them understand the broader picture of their technology spend. Dovetailing off of that, both cloud and SaaS management are about maximizing the value of the dollar or whatever the currency is in the local area that your business operates in, your customers operate in. And that brings us to unit economics. It's really about demonstrating business value. What is the business impact on that cloud or technology spend investment? When we talk about unit economics, there are two different types we often talk about. One is resource efficiency, an example being, cost per gigabyte stored, but this could really be any cost per resource. That's often a building block and foundational component of where organizations start when they talk about unit economics. But then over time, they really want to focus on those business metrics, and these will be unique to each of your customers. And a lot of times it may vary by the industry they are in or the business segment. So cost per hotel reservation, cost per airline reservation, things of that nature. And there are many different capabilities that are contributing factors for unit economics. Starting with data analysis and cost allocation, I would say these are fundamentals, prerequisites. Without the two of these, your customer may not have an accurate picture of their technology spend in order to do unit economics accurately. But then also some of the other capabilities we've talked about today, forecasting, budget management, optimization, these are all going hand in hand with unit economics. So once your customers establish, the metric they want to measure, then moving forward, they can make adjustments and track over time, their cloud spend against those metrics and how it contributes to key business factors.
And I love cloud unit economics because it fits squarely in that value bucket. And it's the definition of FinOps is ensuring that your clients are getting the value they expect from their cloud investments. And when you're talking about cloud unit economics, it's measuring the things that are most valuable to your clients. And it's a very strategic discussion. And in terms of the MSP opportunity, we can put it in the context of the FinOps crawl, walk, and run model. So to crawl, to start, you just help your customers define the business unit that they want to measure. What is it that's important to them? And that it might be user, and it might be the cost of a resource per user. This is important to me. I want to know how much each user is consuming in terms of VMs, for example. And then the next step is help customers set the business metrics and then measure against their key performance indicators, measure against their objectives. So they might want to see if it's for example, a ride share application. They might want to say, hey, I want to know what the cost is in terms of consumption of cloud per rideshare booking. So every booking from the beginning when the booking is made to the end when the passenger is dropped off. I want to know the cost for each each booking, the fixed cost. And then the run piece of it is helping customers analyze and optimize based on that unit data that has being measured. So it's first, what do you want to measure? And second is, how do you want to measure? And then last is, how do you want to take action based on what you have measured? For example, if you're measuring cost per rideshare booking, you might want to say, hey, this is too high. I need to be at a certain fixed cost for every booking. Right now, it's costing me $1. I need to get that down to 75 cents per booking, or else I'm not going to be running a profitable business. So then you can take action, specific action, to get down to that cost. Or you might say, well, $1 is acceptable if it's a certain type of booking, if it's a booking that's in a certain region, or if it's a booking that is costs enough to cover my costs, that might be acceptable. So you might want to say, well, focus just on this specific booking, and then you can go back and measure that and say, hey, has my profitability increased because A, I decreased my cost, I'm optimized, or B, I focused on the things that were most profitable for my business. So it's still, at the end of the day, it's about consumption. That's what you're measuring in the tool is it's like, but it's looking at the specific unit and the business objective that's important to your customer, and that's extremely, extremely powerful. So this is again why I love um, this particular use case.
Yeah, and I'll also add to that that unit economics is a win for your customers if you can provide them the guidance and help them achieve their, desired metrics and KPIs. But it's also a win for you. If you help your customers be more profitable, achieve these desired metrics, that makes your business stickier. So when your renewal time comes up with your end customers, they're going to know the value of your business and what you've provided to them.
Yeah, and it's also a conversation that is typically had at a more senior level, and maybe outside of IT or development. An IT person or a development person might not necessarily care about the business objectives. They're just doing their job, getting the application developed, running it, and then supporting it. But a business, a product person or a finance person or a C-level person absolutely will care about those KPIs and about those objectives, and that's a great conversation to have with those personas. And an example of unit economics that we've run across is there was a financial services customer. They wanted to align their cloud spend with the key business KPIs. And they were launching a new modern smartphone application. So they redone their application. They were relaunching it. And they wanted to view unit economics, costs, and dashboards per user of their smartphone app. So what they're able to do is measure the cost per user, and they're also able to see the type of user and what the user was consuming, the profitability of the user, so they can focus on more engagement with those particular users. So they understand the types of users that are engaged, and they can focus on the ones who are most engaged and who are in turn the most profitable. So again, demonstrating the business impact of cloud investments, the value of the money that your clients uh, are spending in the cloud is what unit economics is all about, and you should be having these conversations with all of your clients.
All right, we're here at the final trend for today. And I know what you're thinking, oh gosh, another presentation with AI, but honestly, AI is here to stay. Everyone's talking about it, whether it's LLMs, agents, Gen AI, all of the above. Everyone is being pressured to develop an AI strategy and execute on it. And so if you're not already having AI conversations with your customers, you need to do so immediately. Now, looking at the state of FinOps data again, we see that 63% of organizations are managing AI spend. This is up from 31% last year. The big cloud providers, AWS, Azure, Google, they're all vying for the top spot as, the leader in AI. And your customers are definitely starting to experiment with ChatGPT and all these other tooling that are available out there and trying to figure out how AI could work for their business. And when it comes to AI, again, the key capabilities that they're focused on aren't entirely different than the other ones we've already touched on. Allocating spend, being able to view and report on AI spend, detecting anomalies. For example, if your customers are spinning up, AI services like with Google, Vertex AI, perhaps they want to set up an anomaly alert rule to identify if there's, an unexpected spike in that specific service type. And they're also looking at FinOps tools and services. And, perhaps you have AI tooling as part of your portfolio. Perhaps you're exploring, different tools for your customers. But this is something that your customers are looking for as well. They want to know who out there can help them with this problem.
Yeah, it's wild to see that it jumped from 31% to 63% in just a year. And given the year that we've had in AI, I guess we can understand that. But what it means is a lot of new customers who are using AI technology for the first time, and obviously trying to manage the costs that come with that technology for the first time. And it's an unknown. It's an unknown in terms of the cost. It's new, and it's an unknown in terms of the value that these services are bringing. And that's the opportunity for MSPs is, first, building your customers' AI strategy. You're already doing that. Most of you are providing AI services, but also understand the costs that are involved in terms of the consumption of CPU and storage, and help your customers make the right choices for an optimized AI environment, and also help them understand the value that they're getting from the massive investments that they are making in AI. And I said it probably a couple times already. I'll say it again. If you're providing AI services, every conversation that you should be having with clients and prospects should include FinOps. How are you getting visibility? How are you optimizing? How are you ensuring that you're getting a return on these investments that you're making in AI?
Yeah, at the end of the day, folks just don't know how much AI is going to cost. They're spinning up all these new applications and agents and chatbots, and in many cases, there may be a surprise bill coming, and they need your their trusted partner like you to help them manage that effectively.
During the gold rush, there were only a small number of people who made money on gold, but you know who was profitable every time? The tool providers. The folks who are providing the shovels and the axes, the folks who are assisting, that is a winning proposition every time. And every company, every client that's dipping their toes into AI needs these tools. So we had a customer who wanted some visibility into their AI spending, and to start, that was just AI services they came from their CSP. So they're a Google user and they're using Vertex AI. It's starting to spike. So what they needed to do is track and manage that spend in the platform in the same way they were tracking and managing their Google infrastructure, and they needed to allocate the spend for Vertex AI to the proper business groups that were consuming that. And they needed to set budgets, they needed to get visibility, and to Marie's point, they were looking at anomalies as well. It's also important to note here that using a platform, a FinOps platform, to manage your clients' environments. If you are an MSP and you're using a platform where you're setting up and managing your client environments, you have the visibility into what's going on in their environments as well. So you also can see early on if they are spinning up applications, spinning up services that indicate that they're doing an AI project, and you can go in and you can have a conversation not only about FinOps, cloud cost management, but about also their AI strategy if you're not already having conversations. So after looking at services, the next step is going to be visualizing and optimizing the GPU usage. So what are you using for GPU? So visibility, and then figuring out ways to optimize GPU. So another big challenge for clients is figuring out what's this thing going to cost me and what's the return, and that's the huge opportunity for you as a cloud services provider.
Yeah, and just going back to your earlier comment, Bob, about the gold rush, and you mentioned tooling and folks who are providing the shovels. In many cases, you are the FinOps team for your customer. You are the trusted expert. And especially with areas like AI, ML, like a lot of folks don't have expertise in this area. So if you build AI services and can really provide that expertise to your customers, you'll be really ingrained in the future of their business. All right, with that, we want to thank you for your time today and just touch on a few key bits here about Ternary. Ternary is a FinOps native platform, so to speak, and our team has been in this space for quite a long time. Many of us, like Bob and myself, have worked at first generation cost management solutions. But what's really unique about Ternary is that we are partner first. Vast majority of our business goes through our partners. We want to help you grow your book of business. We want to help your customers demonstrate the value of their cloud spend. You'll see here just a snippet of our MSP dashboard, and you'll see it breaks down a lot of the key areas we've spoken about today. Giving that reporting visibility to your customers, identifying anomalies, savings, looking at the different integrations and data sources that they have. And then this is along with all the other capabilities across FinOps, budgeting, forecasting, economics, so on and so forth. And the other unique piece about Ternary is that we are truly multi-cloud. Many solutions in the space, claim to be multi-cloud, but really are primarily focused on a single cloud provider. A lot of the time, that is, AWS. Ternary has feature parity across all three leading cloud providers, AWS, Azure, Google, and also supports additional cloud providers like Oracle and Alibaba Cloud, to name a few. So a lot of opportunity here. Our team would love to work with you, and we would love to connect. Any final thoughts, Bob, before we open it up for questions?
No, let's open it up for questions. So if there's any questions, you can drop it into the uh, the Q&A box there of the Zoom, and we'll take any questions that you might have.
All right. Well, thank you all again for attending today's Ternary webinar. We really appreciate your time, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Take care.
Bye. Bye.